Tell me about this early farm.
This one right here?
No, your farm.
Okay, well, since I have known it, it's been a dairy farm. And there was lots of dairy farms when we started out in 1954. I think there was something like 250. Now there's 4. My father was the first one I remember farming it. Everybody thinks because we have been there 10 generations, but it is not. It was mostly through the maternal lines. And my father's father was not a farmer. He was a lawyer, as was his father from Buffalo, New York. And my father was the first one to farm the farm that I can remember, like I said. And it was a dairy farm, primarily. Sold a little hay and straw occasionally, but primarily dairy.
Where was this?
I just a Sykesville. It's on Old Frederick and Underwood Road.
How large?
Well, the original farm was about 200 acres. My father bought 130 more, and we have bought 80-some since then. So it's 400 and some acres now.
Is the farm still operating?
Oh, yes.
So let's go back to the early days. Your earliest memories of being on the farm.
Well, I can still remember when we did work with horses, but I think that ended about the time the war was over in 1945, so I was only 5 years old. But I have vague memories of riding the big old workhorses out in the field and to the thrashing crew. I used to have to take them water. That was my job. And of course, being a boy, I'd drink most of the water before I got out there. And that wasn't viewed with a whole lot of niceness there. I got to talk to her right sternly.
What was the amount of crew and people running the farm then?
Gee, I don't know. Let's see. Well, first place, we only had about 30 cows then. And we had a black man named Sam Young, who was a very good man. My father, my brother, we did a little work, even though I was only 5 years old. I don't guess I did much. And then there was a couple others whose name I have forgotten.
During that time, did you have any German prisoners come to your farm?
Yes, but I don't hardly remember it, other than I remember one of them. I had a toy gun, wooden gun, and I was shooting everything with that wooden gun. Of course, it wouldn't shoot, and I pointed one at a German prisoner, and he turned around and went bang like that real quick, and it scared me right badly. But I can't remember too much about them. I don't think we had over 2 or 3 there.
You remember where they came from, like the locker or something?
Yeah, the freezer locker down there. I guess they came from Fort Meade, and then we picked them up at the freezer locker. I don't remember that, but I remember being told that.
What was the farm used for then?
Dairy.
And when's your earliest memory of when you were working on the farm? Meaning you're actually doing something to help out.
Well, I used to feed the calves, and that was pretty early. I would say I was about 7 or 8 then, and I was helping feed the calves.
What did that encompass? What did you do to feed the calves at 7 or 8?
Well, we had to get milk from the cows, take it up to the calf barn, put it in front of the calves, make sure they fed it without spilling it. And then at about age 2.5, 3 months, we introduced them to grain. And gradually they got on grain and off milk.
Was that all your responsibility? Or
Oh, no, not at that time. Later on it was, but not my first responsibility. I think my mother did it, and I helped her.
How old would the calves be before you got them off the grain onto hay?
Grain up there. Well, they pretty well did grain, some grains right straight through. But the calf starter, we call it, they get off that about 4 or 5 months.
How about some good stories from them? Do you remember any good stories you can relate from that time period?
Oh, that time period, no.
It was at that time you were starting school.
Yeah. And one time my brother and I got to be, decided we were going to be big trappers. And it worked a while. We trapped a couple of raccoons and whatnot, and then we tracked a skunk one time. And that was bad. We tried to get the skunk out of the trap. It was a steel trap, and we both got, sprayed big time. So we got on the bus. I think Mother tried to get us sanitized the best as possible, which wasn't too possible. We got on the bus, and my brother sat, and I sat right beside him, so everybody would think it was him. Wouldn't think it was me. We got to school, West Friendship, and I think Mr. Estes called up my parents and said, "Come get them boys."
That's great. So, who do you think you learned farming from?
Oh, my parents. And then I took various ag courses, and tell you the truth, sometimes I think I haven't learned too much about it.
How big was your family, Phil?
3. My brother, three siblings. My brother was 5 years older than me, and my sister, Ann, she's 14 years younger than me. I was in the middle, and my brother died of pancreatic cancer in 1984. So there's only 2 of us left now.
Did your sister help on the farm?
Yes, when she was young, she did.
Can you tell me some things she did?
So Ann did. She fed the calves too, and raked hay. That's a tractor job. Then we all got into machinery, of course, after we got rid of the horses. I remember we worked together in those days. We generally worked with the Pipes family. And filling silo was a big deal. They had a corn binder there, and a corn binder made the bundles of corn. I guess you'd say they were about 25 pounds, something like that, a piece. But they put me to drive it. The first thing I ever drove was a World War II surplus Jeep. And it was hard to drive. And I would have much rather picked up, and I told my father, let me out there and pick up that corn. I can do that. No, boy, you'll hurt yourself doing that. Drive that thing. There's nothing to it. But the clutch was way up there. I could hardly reach it. And I hated that job. But by and large, I enjoyed working with our neighbors. I enjoyed working with Pipeses. We had, it was kind of a thing. The women would see who could outdo the other one and make the best meals. And us boys like that.
Where were you getting your food in those days when you were young?
Where was I getting my food?
Meaning, where did you get the food supplies?
Well, if you're talking about the cows, we mostly Southern States, Farm and Home. It's still in business. At that time, Harold Chris had it. And we got cow feed there. We also, I remember, got cow feed from Laro, and that's just kind of, and I don't know who sold Laro, but...
Do you have your own garden, Phil?
Half-ass, or should I say that?
Yeah, but you could go out there and gather cows.
Yeah, but we weren't good gardeners. Now, my grandfather, on my mother's side, was an excellent gardener. His father had been a gardener for the Reagan Manor. And he was raised in that little cottage outside, I don't know, for 144 in Manor Lane. But he was an excellent gardener. He kept us pretty well supplied with things.
Yeah, that little building was called a gatehouse at one
Gatehouse, right? Still is, I guess, yeah. 10 kids, his family had 10 children, and they were Strombergs. And I don't know how they ever got raised in that little house, but whatever.
Do you have any memories of the farm actually running without electricity?
Well, I can remember living in a house without electricity.
What was that like?
Well, you were very, water was rations. We went down to the spring house, I can vaguely remember that, we had a spring house and got water, and of course that was supposed to be the best water around according to my father. Carried it up the hill. And we did have, how would that work? I guess they put the water on the stove. We had a wood stove to heat it, and that's how you took a bath. You didn't take a bath too often. But I remember, the only thing I remember about electricity is when it came in, it was right after the war, probably 45. And the big thing was a selling point, other than what I heard about it, was the pole light. So you're going to get a light on a pole out there, and we had to dig, put the pole up, and you'd have thought that would have illuminated the whole countryside. But that was a selling point. And of course, that changed everything, not the pole light, but the electricity.
How far back off of the highway was your house to get the electricity back to it?
Well, the parents' house is back there, quarter of a mile, mine's another half a mile. And they did it all at once. They came in on Old Frederick Road, and they put the line across our field, and my father didn't want to let them do that. He didn't want the poles to be in our field. But they told him that it was going to be 2 or 3 years more before they got into Underwood Road, came in the other way. So he let them do it, and then they came in the other way, and he was mad as a hornet. Because he could have come in that way, and he wouldn't have to, he said, messed up the field with telephone poles.
Well, now that you had the telephone poles with the electricity on it, when did you get a telephone?
335J3.
I mean, when
Yeah, I know.
did you get it at the same time the poles were put in?
I can never remember being without telephone. But to come to think of it, they had a phone. How did they do that?
Well,
They had a phone before they had electricity.
Well, that's a new one on me.
Well, I know.
It was electric, it was a telephone wire, so it must have been on.
I don't know how they did that. I've heard my father's grandfather farmed a farm, and he was the last Confederate veteran to die in the state. He died in 1929. And my father has taught tales of him talking on the phone. So I don't know how they, and he said, my father used to say, his grandfather thought the farther people were away, the louder he had to talk. So he'd pick it up, he'd be talking loud anyhow, and just, it's your Uncle Tevis from Aberdeen. And,
That's long distance.
yeah, that's long distance. But I don't know how they had a phone with that, but they definitely had one. So I never remember being without a phone.
When you, in those early days, Sunday came around. What was Sundays like for you? What did you usually do on Sundays?
Well, sometimes we went to church. We weren't the world's most religious family, to tell you the truth, but we were maybe once a month going to church, something of that nature. And then every other Sunday we went down to my grandmother and grandfather's, who lived on Rogers Avenue in Ellicott City, and ate down there. And every other Sunday they'd come up to our place and eat up there. So that was up until the time I was 14 or 15, I guess. That was the routine.
And how about your friends at that time? What were they, were they nearby friends, or would you mostly be with the family, or did you have friends at that time when you were growing up?
Oh, like everyone else, when I got to be 13, 14, 15, I started to get my own friends and tried to break away from my family as much as possible, of course. And 4-H was a good place to cultivate friends. And school, of course. I mean, school was School was the place where you meet most of them.
How'd you get to school when you were growing up?
Bus, school bus. Now, it took me, when I went to Howard High, almost an hour and a half to ride on the bus. A feeder bus, Shipley's, picked me up, took me to West Friendship. Then I waited for a while at West Friendship, but couldn't make it up. You know, nothing was quite smooth. And then I got Hooper's bus, and that took me to Howard High. And when I got 16, and then I drove a little bit sometimes. Go ahead. No, you're good.
So, when you were helping on the farm and you were younger, tell me what a typical farm day was like for you.
Well, if I wasn't going to school, I'd get up around 6, feed the calves, eat breakfast at 9. It seems like we were always making hay. Making hay was you're either mowing it, raking it, baling it, moving the bales in, all like that. That was a summertime job, full-time job.
What was the oldest machine you used? I mean, side delivery rake, sickle bar, or what was the oldest stuff you used?
Well, side delivery, and I can vaguely remember the hay loader. Of course, they used horses, some, but then they also pulled a wagon, and the hay loader was on the back of the wagon, and it would put the hay up, loose hay. I can kind of remember that, and they put it on wagons, and there was an art to loading that hay. I could never do it, but my father was good at it. And then we take it into the barn, and they had a track up top of the barn, and pull it up with the prongs, go along the track, pull a rope, and make a big banging noise, and down the hay would come. And I don't really have any big memory, but I do remember one of my jobs for a while was pulling the tractor. You had to pull the tractor, pull a rope, I guess, up to get the hay up in the mow. And I did that. Didn't do much mowing the hay. It wasn't long before we got a baler, and I think our first baler was a New Holland.
So, were you around before, do you remember back before the first tractor came?
First tractor he got was at Farmall C, and that was in 1945. 5 years old. I don't know. I just have a few memories of horses, but not really many. And in 1950, he got a Farmall M. And
So you'd have been about 10 years old when you got the Farmall M.
right,
You could hardly drive that, could you?
it was a handful. It was a big old piece of iron.
Did you drive it?
Yeah, I drove it. Tough tractor it is too. It was a good one.
It was one of the biggest they made at the time.
It was, yeah. I remember Doris Ridgely, who was in the hay business. He came in, stopped in the field one time, and he told my father, "Ridgely, that's the biggest tractor you'll ever have your butt sitting on."
That's great. All right, so the time that you got into your teens, and did you start thinking of wandering away from the farm life, or did you stick with farm life?
I stuck with it. I always wanted to be a farmer. Sometimes I got discouraged, as we all do, but then I got, my brother went to college, and I did not. So he came back. Actually, we both got to the farm almost the same time.
After his
And,
college? What were you doing while he was in college, though?
going to high school.
Oh, okay. I forgot there was a big difference in the years.
It was a 5-year difference in our age. And then when he got back, we started renting some ground and getting bigger into corn business and all like that, and losing money and having fun. Well, we both did pretty well everything. When you're on a medium-sized farm like we are, you really can't specialize. You have to be able to do everything. And by that time, I started doing the milking. And if need be, I'd milk and feed the calves and then go out in the field and do whatever had to be done out there.
So when you started milking, was that originally by hand, or were you
No,
automated?
no, that was the first milk machines he had were internationals, and they weren't much good. I don't remember them, but then in late 50s, I think, we built a milking parlor. And in the 60s, we expanded on it, and we still have it. Still the same one.
Can you compare, starting out, how many cattle you had and then compare to what the maximum in cattle is that you had?
Yeah, I think we had about 35 or 40. Maybe we got up to 50. That would have been a lot. And now we have 120 milking cows. Cows give a lot more milk now than they used to.
Why is that?
Genetics is part of it, and feeding is the other part.
So your original equipment, Phil, was fine for the 30 or so heads you had. How did you go about, was this between you and your brother, or you and your dad? Why would you, if you wanted to grow, you needed more equipment. How did you manage that?
Well, for a while, my brother and I just worked for my father. And then sometime in the 60s, we incorporated and came a business where we all had part ownership and equal share and all like that. Well, some share wasn't equal, but then we when my brother died, and I bought his widow out, and now my son is part owner of the farm.
Do you remember about when you went from using milk cans to the milk trucks?
Well, I remember milk cans real well. Let me think now.
They were heavy, son of a gun.
Yeah, well, there are tins, and the original deal of milk, how they cooled it was they put it in a dairy run, which is a cold water run over it from the stream. That was pretty inefficient, really. I mean, and then you had to cool it down for a little, and then they took it out to the
This is why they were in cans.
yeah, while in cans. And then we bought, had a ice bank cooler, which was just a box that you filled full of water, and somehow or another ice formed all around the edge of it. And we put the cans in that. And of course my mother was always saying, "You boys don't put those cans in there, you'll rupture yourself." Because it was up about yay high. And they are hard to get in there. And harder to get out too. But I would say sometime in the 60s we went to bulk tanks, maybe late 50s, early 60s. And now, of course, we have tanks. Charlie Yeager's got one of the biggest collection of milk cans of anybody I know.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Charlie Yeager.
Yeah.
He's with the Dairy Shrine.
The what now?
The Dairy Shrine.
Oh, he's up there today, is he?
Remember that?
Yeah.
Jim Hill.
Where is that now? Is that,
The Dairy Shrine is going to be up at our...
that's what I said, it's going to be up there, but it's
Going
not up there yet.
No.
They've had a hard time finding a home for it.
Well, It's going to be up there.
That's what I
They're happy about it.
understood. Yeah, I'm sure.
What do you think was your most favorite piece of equipment to use on the farm?
Most favorite one now?
Piece of equipment to use on the farm?
I like mowing hay.
Did you ever use a binder?
No, I've seen them used, but I never use it. But mowing alfalfa hay is hard to beat.
Which one?
Mowing alfalfa hay is hard to beat
Sickle bar.
with a disc bar or disc bines.
Oh.
Sickle bar might work all right too.
So what do you think was your favorite farm job?
Again, I'll say mowing hay. I like to mow hay.
Did you have any chickens?
Yes, my mother had chickens, and right now my daughter-in-law has chickens, because Fox doesn't eat them all. But the health department strongly encouraged dairy farmers to get rid of chickens. There was some disease that they didn't like. I'm not sure what it was. I kind of forget the details of it.
Yeah, I didn't know it was local, the aviarian disease. It's a spot thing.
Yeah, well, it was all over, but of course you get big in the chicken business, but they didn't like it. And of course now everybody's getting these darn backyard chicken flocks. Like I say, my daughter-in-law's got one, and
You know, my neighbor had 4 chickens and the fox got all 4 of them.
yeah, that
Read
happens.
the fence.
That happens.
You still have the farm now?
Still have a what?
The farm now.
Yeah.
And where is it? Did we describe where it was? We did.
Underwood Road 99.
Yeah.
Wait, he didn't say that before.
Yep.
And currently it's how many acres?
Well, it's about 425 acres. It's about at least 100 woodland, and good bit in pasture.
Now, for the video, tell us where the farm is again.
Okay. Old Frederick and Underwood Road. And actually, it's on both sides of Underwood Road, where Underwood meets Forsyth and where Underwood meets Old Frederick.
And what are you doing on the farm today? Your farm is making what?
Milk. We're still in the dairy business.
Are you-
I mean, we sell a little stuff here and there, but primarily it's milk.
Did you tell us how many cows you have now?
Yeah, I told you 120, I think, but that's just milking cows.
Mhm.
Heifers is at least 100 more, probably more than that.
Are you growing any grains?
Oh yeah, we grow all the corn. We grow enough corn to feed us, and hopefully we have a little left over to sell. And we grow barley. We don't. The only grain we buy, just about the only feed stuff we buy is protein, which is soybean oil meal.
Who are your farm hands today?
Well, we have a guy named Albert Lowe, and my son and I. My son's Tim. He's, I don't know how old he is.
It's okay. It's not necessary, Phil.
Did you ever have thrashing machines come to your farm?
Yes, I can vaguely remember that too. That was one of the jobs I had to go out and give them water, and I drank all the water before I got there.
Brother and I, same thing.
And they'd blow that whistle in the morning. I guess the whistle was for everybody you're going to get started.
And what grains did you have at that time? Wheat, oats, barley? What?
Yeah, wheat, barley. Didn't have any oats. Wheat and barley would be it. I remember I hated barley because it itches so. And you went around and you got help, white help, black help, both. And I remember one old black man says, I was a farmer, I wouldn't plant any of this blame barley. And I said, I agree with you. I know where you're coming from. That stuff will get on you, and it beers, it's terrible.
And what kind of haze did you have?
Hay, alfalfa mostly, and grass hay was orchard grass. Some timothy every now and then. But today we still have, alfalfa's kind of going out of favor today, but we still grow it. I like it.
So, did you ever go into another profession and then come back to farming?
No. I've been in a lot of organizations before, but they've all been pretty well farm related. But,
You've been a president of a couple of them, haven't you?
yep.
Well, name one.
Yeah.
Farm Bureau.
Howard County Farm Bureau.
Yeah, Howard County Farm Bureau. Incidentally, I don't know, David Patrick's daughter had a stroke. They think she's going to be all right, Rhonda. But David and Ann were at some kind of an awards banquet. He's the oldest inseminator, either in the country or in some given area. He's still breeding cows.
Yeah, we're going to be interviewing Dave.
Yeah, well, Dave's got a lot of good stuff to tell you.
Well, so let's go back to the Farm Bureau. You were doing that for a while?
Yes?
Do you know how much of a while?
No, I'd say about 4 or 5 years.
Okay. So, for my mind, my perception of that is that you have to think about the entire Howard County community of farmers. Is that correct?
Yes, you're supposed to be representing farmers. It's a voluntary organization, and you're supposed to represent the best interests of farmers. If you don't, they'll vote you out, I would think. They should.
So that tells me you have a strong interest in the actual community of farming around here.
Yes, I do.
How do you think that came about?
Well, everybody likes to have something they're doing around them, and maybe it was just selfishness. I have yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I guess it was, I went to a sale, farm sale, in my neighbor's house. He has run into some financial trouble, not farming, but building, and he had to sell his farm. And it was a very emotional time. I mean, now these people have been my neighbors all my life, and I've liked them very much, and now I can't imagine how he feels about it.
He got through it? Has he gotten through the financial times?
I hope so,
Well, we wish that for him.
yes.
When you were, so how did you get, okay, so your friends, you took the bus to school, you got to be friends with them that way. As you got older, I guess Dad drove you to your friends or picked them up? How did you keep communication with friends going?
Well, I got my license when I was 16. And until then, my father would take us, I guess, before he took us to 4-H meetings and all like that. I played ball over at Sykesville, and I used to walk back and forth, believe it or not. Don't think I could do it now.
Did you have 4-H projects?
Yes. We had,
Could you tell me some?
I don't remember them really, other than I had one cow one year that won at the Howard County Fair. That's about the only thing I can remember.
Did you ever think of other animals?
No. Cows and calves were it. My son does a few pigs, but
When did you not have horses anymore?
45, I'd guess, right after the war.
That was Farmall C time.
Yeah,
And then you got the Farmall M in 19
50, yeah.
What did you do when the animals got sick?
Well, you learn to try to help nurse them yourself, or if they're real sick, you call a veterinarian. The veterinarian was at our place this morning. He went not for sick cows, but for pregnancy examinations. Cows, not people.
When you were a kid, how did that work out, though? When you were working on the farm as a kid?
You mean the sick cows?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't do the things cows that we do today. Most of the time, if a cow got sick, she died. But today we try to, you don't always, like anything, you don't always save them, but there's a thing called displacement, which means the cow's got 4 stomachs. Every now and then one of them gets where it shouldn't be. And it used to be they just sold them or they died, one or the other. Now they operate on them all the time. And there's no big deal. They do it in an hour.
Any thoughts, questions? This may sound odd, but did you ever have any accidents on the farm when you were a kid?
Now, when I was a kid, if I had enough, number one time I wasn't a kid, I guess I was maybe 18, 19. And I had an old Minneapolis mulch, and I was mowing with one of those disc mines that goes like this, and it was a real hot day, and all of a sudden the tractor stopped. And I thought to myself, I must not put gas in that thing. And the gas tank, and I took the cap off, and it was under pressure. And the gas came out, and it burned up, hit me on the head and burned up. It burned all my hair and my back a little bit, but fortunately it didn't get my front at all. It burnt the tractor pretty well up. And then another time, I had a cow and me tried to get in a door at the same time, and they're bigger than me. She won. And I couldn't get my breath. It was like the wind knocked out of you. So I drove over to my house and I said to my wife, call the 911. Next thing I knew, I was on a helicopter going to Baltimore. But I was not hurt real bad. As soon as they got my lungs uncollapsed, I guess I was fine.
All because of a cow.
Yeah, all because of the cow. Yep.
You gotta watch out for those selfish cows.
Knocked the wind out of you.
Oh, yeah. It was a good, sturdy concrete door, so there was no give in it. And I was trying to head her off.
So all in all, what do you think of your farming life?
Well, if I could go back, I'd do some things differently, as we all would, I guess. But I think that I haven't done too badly. I hope I've left a legacy, both financial and materially, for my children. And I'm pretty sure I've left the ground in good shape. And
So what do you think of Howard County today as versus what you remember when you were young?
yeah, well, it's to say the least different, but there's still 25,000 acres of farmland in Howard County, or 25 to 30. So there's more than you think, and if you look at it like combine Montgomery County with Howard County and Carroll County, you go to like Laytonsville, maybe, I don't know where, here in 32 and whatnot, there's a lot of land there still left. And I think someday we might need that.
So where is farming going in the areas you described? Where do you think it's going now?
It's going to be a whole variety of things. Right now, it's a lot of smaller, medium-sized operations that are doing very good by pick your own and selling vegetables and whatnot. Then the horse business has gotten big, not thoroughbreds so much, but pleasure horses. And a lot of people are boarding them. And one thing for sure, I don't know what's going to happen, but it'll change. And But the Glens, there is at least some land there so that people will have the option to do something whether they want to do.
That's a good point you just made. Appreciate that.
So, do you mind if I nominate you again for the Farm Bureau president?
Yes. Howie Figure's doing a real good job.
That was a fun joke I was having with you, Phil.
We're gonna be interviewing Howie Figgy too.
Yeah, Howie's of course does well with the horses.
No.
You good? I think we're good.
Okay.